Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel and more Birthright as we continue to work our way through the remaining realms here for the Kanasi. Before we get into it, if you want to support the channel, guys, check out our Patreon. We got a lot of exclusives there, but also early access to videos like these and some other goodies for D&D and other games as we move along. And we have a free tier as well for our sort of semi-regular hobby blog and other goodies again as well. But all the support really goes back into the channel here and helps us acquire all kinds of modules to bring you guys content. With that being said, let's jump in. Ghamoura, lawful, neutral, and recommended. We have 7 provinces, mostly on the low end as far as settlement goes, although we have a level 5. Interestingly here, law and temples are under the same person's control, so we'll get into that in a second. Guilds, a little bit of mixed bag there, mostly under the League of Pious Merchants, but there is a little bit of variation, and no sources here, although there are some provinces with plenty of potential for that. So the island state of Ghamoura falls under the rule of the Holy Temple of Nasri, so we haven't seen a religious-based realm in a while. It controls every aspect of the realm, enforcing lives of piety and morality on the Ghamourans. The priests control every available law holding, and the temple's bureaucracy and inquisitors serve as the island's government and constabulary. The ruling Holy Temple of Nasri, sometimes called the Ghamouran Temple, permits only Nasri's faith on the island. The inquisitors consider all other priests heretics, and worship of other deities is punishable by death. So while everything might seem overly agreeable and peaceful, they certainly don't tolerate any other religions here. So something to be aware of should you be adventuring there, and a priest or worshiper of another deity. They do acknowledge that gods and goddesses besides Nasri do exist, but they don't tolerate people who worship them. So while they might otherwise be, a lawful people and all that, they just, they outright will not tolerate other gods' worship. So travelers beware. Ghamourans tolerate thieves about as much as heretics. The punishment for even petty theft is quite severe. However, inquisitors do allow legitimate merchants to operate as long as they tithe 10% of their income to the temple. So that's right, the temple's always got to get theirs. The merchant consortium of Surien maintains a presence here, but the temple endorses the League of Pious Merchants, of course, and its regent Talin bin Chantil, level 2 thief, and a lawful good thief at that. How about that? So, but that could be sort of I don't think they created one, but that could be a fun sort of subclass that, or a prestige class or something like that the DM could come up with a character, sort of an inquisitor type of cleric, maybe a sort of a custom kit. This state differs from most others on the Sun Coast in that locals consider sorcery of all kinds a vile crime against nature. So again, anybody also playing a wizard character or other type of magic user like that should also be aware. So they don't tolerate other gods worship and no magic users, essentially. So no wizards may practice their arts on the island, and even a brief visit can prove very dangerous for a practitioner of the magical arts. Thus, the island sources remain untapped, and that would explain that. A fact which has greatly hampered the Serpent's efforts to insinuate his agents into Ghamouran society. So, there's a silver lining there, I guess. But yeah. So, interesting sort of culture that we have here, right? Again, they recognize other gods and all that, but again, you can't worship them while you're there. Obviously, severe punishment. Same thing for thieves, which is a good thing, right? Keeps bad thief and thief guild activity to a minimum, if not eliminated. But also no magic users are tolerated whatsoever. So pretty strict here. But again, it's nice because it sets this realm apart so much from all the others. And, if you're running this realm, you kind of have to then steer that path, at least initially. But, does changing the culture of the island at all make sense here to be a little bit more open? And would the people support that? So there's pros and cons to all that, but having that certainly in place the way it is an interesting sort of path to follow as well. And again, if nothing else, keeps the serpent at bay, at least for the time being. But also a nice realm as far as running it goes, because again, you're getting your income from your law holdings and things like that, taxing, but also temple activity, and then the guilds tithe you 10% as well. So it is one of these shorter entries because it's just a single page, so you don't get anything about army or regency or even treasury, but something that the players and the DM could suitably come up with and work something. So I feel like treasury should be very decently sized, if not pretty generous here. maybe something in the 20s or so, because again, it doesn't seem like they have that many expenses, plus, some regular income from the guilds and stuff as well. So the regent, the temple, and the state follow the high priest Markhab el Adazar, level 7 priest, although interestingly here, lawful evil. How about that? 37 bloodline power, but again, lawful neutral realm. The 6th high priest of his Gairu. In Ghamoura, noble titles and properties lost their significance many years ago, so the Ajazabda families began to place their children in important temple positions rather than the Sultan's court. Although the priests of Nasri's temple don't marry, most families are large enough that a nephew or cousin can take up the priesthood of a relative who passes away. Now, the ruler stands a towering 6 feet 8 inches in height with a bony but athletic build. The priest in his late 30s shaves his head in keeping with the custom of all Ghamouran temple priests. And this ambitious but patient man slowly gathered support during his 20 years of temple service before forcing the previous high priest into early retirement. Quote-unquote forcing. He dreams of extending the true faith of Nasri to the hedonists and degenerates of neighboring lands. Oh, do we have a little bit of crusading brewing here? With the edge of a sword, need be. Yeah, so there you go. If you want like a sort of militaristic crusader type of state for this faith, there you go. You have something like that for the Kanasi now. Other important NPCs, Murazin Layla bint Sidro El Shaula, there's a hell of a name, level 12 priestess, and lawful neutral, tiny bloodline, leads the temple's inquisitors. So interesting that she's neutral and the other guy's evil too. This priestess has raised the practice of witch hunting to an art. Yeah, definitely, neutral, right? Yeah. So her hand-picked guards of temple soldiers and priests roam the island in search of magicians and wizards. The idealistic young Muradal, paladin, Katifa Min Tomad, there we go, lawful good. No bloodline, or at least maybe bloodline of 0, doesn't really say, it just says Nasri. But has begun a crusade to end corruption within the temple. How about that? She has sworn secretly to expose the high prefect's underhanded dealings and to instill a true priest on the throne. So good luck with that. At least level 8 priestess, though. And again, our guy here is level 7, and then we got the level 12 there. So a lot of high-level priests. So very interesting. We got lawful evil, lawful neutral, and lawful good. So all flavors of lawful on here. So while on the one hand, you don't seem to have too much conflict, open conflict to deal with, this, again, this the very nature of the way that the state is set up here is obviously going to, I think, breed some internal problems over time, certainly. And again, if you're playing as the existing character, right, so then, following your lawful evil sort of leaning with, again, you got these state-sanctioned inquisitors that are there to ferret out, the evil magic users and all that. So again, it's something that, could quickly get out of hand or get go the wrong way. But also, again, you're looking at, at least in the description here, maybe doing some aggressive religious expansionism. So there's some interesting ways that could be taken, but also could certainly lead to several conflicts there. But it sounds like we do have like some militarized forces as well. So again, the DM could maybe come up with a custom unit of like inquisitors, because I don't think they made an army card for that. So that could be something cool to work on, and maybe just have them be like one sort of elite unit. But yeah, there's not much listed else as far as like actual armed forces, again, as we talked about. Now, or even a navy. Like the other islands of the Jari Deeps, it boasts mountainous terrain with dense forests and a warm, rainy climate. Its people seem quiet and orderly, carefully avoiding actions that might call the attention of the temple's inquisitors. Yeah, you kind of want to stay out of their way, because they'll likely find something that's wrong. Although some may resent the temple's control over their lives, most people enjoy the security and order that the church provides for them. Now, the nation does trade lumber, fruit, iron, and copper to the mainland, especially the arid plains states. But just because such realms trade with this domain doesn't mean they approve of Ghamoura's policies. In fact, the High Priest's tyranny has alienated many of the states and the old allies of the state, like Jafra and Suirian. So, yeah, something that you'll have to consider if you do take over running the realm. Now, adventuring in here could be very, very interesting, especially should the characters have any of those classes that would be problematic, like, again, worshiping another god or, being a magic user. So very, very precarious there, but could be fun to again, be part of the state and, growing up in this society, but then maybe getting exposed to other nations and, maybe leaning towards being a little bit more open, but then that could cause conflicts with obviously the higher ups of the state. So there's just some interesting potential here with this nation. But again, there's also a fair bit to flesh out because, again, it's just one of these shorter entries. But that's a great option where the player and the DM can collaborate. Again, we talked about sort of some custom kits as far as the priests go, but also maybe a custom army unit. So there's a lot of potential there, something fun to design. So let us know in the comments, guys, if you've used or played in the realm of Ghamoura in one way or another. Hit us up in the comments, as we said, like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.